Our objective in this trial when we started was transparency and to try to find the truth. Accountability doesn't come down to one person. Accountability is everybody who had a hand or a role in the carnage that lay behind what happened during that period of time. A very liberating experience as a defense attorney to be able to ask questions of witnesses which in times could implicate our own client, and we did at many points, but also help other people. That what 𝒮𝓁𝑒𝒶𝓃𝓃𝓃𝓁 were doing had some import, not just for our client, but for the community, for particular victims, and also for the public. Sometimes public and people, victims like the Davis family, need somebody to stand up for them, and that's why we rely on prosecutors. That's why we rely on our government to do that. And when they fail, and someone else is there to take the void, and we had an opportunity to do that, for us that was very meaningful. To ask a public or a jury to trust in whole witnesses that had such promises and inducements and such motives to lie, in some ways that's reflected itself in the verdict.
It's impossible to have a fair trial when there's police reports and evidence that contradict witnesses. There can be no real assurance of a fair trial if an attorney doesn't have a right to fully question the witnesses. And so while the lower court had problems with that and didn't overturn the case, on further appeal, I think the decision to give the defendant a fair trial was the right one.
The child, what does that mean? A brand new beginning. A new beginning. And he's looking at this case as though he is wide-eyed and childlike and really in a good place.
Every case, whether it's the same case or not being retried, you have to look at it like it's a brand new case, because it does drain a lot of the adrenaline and emotion out of it.
So they think they're going to start over. January 27th is when her new trial is scheduled. This unexpected income of something coming to the CW, I do not believe that it's good.
Well, you know, we expect our criminals to commit crimes. That's what criminals do. We don't expect that from our law enforcement. And the government had done a number of things that we don't expect from our government. They not only created victims, but they continued to victimize the victims by denying their responsibility. When we started this case, the effort was at the most important part to help show the role the government played in this entire conspiracy.
And you can't tell me that he's not being paid very heftily from the CW. I think there is a deal with Hank no matter what. And of course it's a huge lump sum of money, and it wouldn't surprise me if we are at the $1 million mark. Now, I don't know that, but I'm just saying. And who's paying for that? Taxpayers? If the feds didn't know that Karen was innocent, they would have never sent the ARCA people to testify.
That's why we called members of the FBI that the government chose not to call. The depth of the corruption within the Department of Justice in that time, all the way to the top, is a story that should and hopefully still will be told. And so hopefully the public will have questions.
The Eight of Swords, we've all seen this before. Hank is going to be boxed in. It ain't going to be good. It ain't going to be pretty. And believe me, he's going to have everything come around him.
And to be as bold as we could during this case, to get answers for people who have been deprived of the answers about what happened to their loved ones and why it's happened. Answers to who is accountable and who's responsible. When we cross-examined witnesses, we didn't shy away from areas. We wanted to know. We knew the community wanted to know. And we knew that many of the victims' families had to know. And we did our best. At many points, we were stopped over and over again. We were prevented from bringing out information that our members of the public, our citizens, are entitled to know. There are answers that are needed by the families and the public, that the families and the public need to keep pushing for. And so we've tried our best, and we'll keep trying the best we can. And now it's time for the public to try as well.
The star card. Now, let me tell you about this little star card. This is Jennifer McCabe. This is her significator card. She's an Aquarius. So why does she come up in the mix? Well, because Hank Brennan knows the attorney that Jennifer McCabe is using, and Jennifer McCabe's girlfriend at the time needed some type of legal representation, and Hank Brennan did that.
I try to have an affinity for all my clients. Remember, when someone's charged, they're presumed innocent, and they come to you because they need help. And when you tell them, I'm going to treat you like a family member, you treat them like a family member.
I don't know. Does that seem like a conflict of interest to you? Maybe sort of, kind of, no. I don't know. But she's showing up. Does this mean she could flip?
Witnesses testify. They seem very concerned about their prior testimony and very tied to it. And there's always the concern or worry that they'll be criticized for being different, that memories change over time, or they may not be as exact. So it takes a certain natural ability out of a witness. It hampers them in a way because they're afraid that they may say something different. So they do become a bit monotone at times. They become very entrenched in their prior testimony, and it limits the government's case. Jurors watch witnesses when they testify because it's not just the words, it's how a person says things, their memory, the gestures they make.
Because she's got a lot of dirt on her, and I call her the fixer.
The government pinned their hopes on these predicate offenses, in many cases, upon witnesses who we thought had an absolute lack of credibility, an extraordinary motive to lie, and were not guides that a reasonable person could follow to help find a conviction.
Listen, I don't think that Hank is totally 100%. He may be 99%, 98%, but I don't think he's totally 99% on the CW end. He knows how to handle the feds, but I know that he's suspicious on a lot of things, and it does nothing to do with Miss Karen. And Hank Brennan chose this pathway. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what's going to happen with him. But I can tell you this, he's planning on coming out of the gate pretty hard.